So where do we start? Liverpool have lost yet again to Nottingham Forest, and things are looking very green. Welcome everyone to our weekly review of Liverpool's performance in the Premier League. It's not looking great. Um, I've got a few points that I just want to raise now. So it just captures where we are and some reasons why I am personally concerned. So without um, further ado, let's go into our review. So first off, this William Wallace mantra by Slot, I think, is one of the reasons why we are experiencing what we this calamitous performance this season. This conversation and admission by him when he said and when players kind of admitted that he has granted them freedom, according to William Wallace. Freedom! So everybody's free to do what they believe is right. Um, and when you tell a player to do what he thinks is right and you grant him the freedom of expression, and then we start to have non-coherence and chaos in the team. See, in modern football, players have become so mechanical and mechanized that you can't afford to give them total freedom. It cannot work. They will make wrong decisions. The team will have no structure. And as I said before, the gameplay will be non-coherent because everybody's doing what they think is right. They don't really, our players especially, don't really think much. So they just go do what they think is right, and everybody else around them suffers. Looking at the game, um, I agree that in the first half an hour, we played very well. But even while playing very well, that freedom that everybody has been granted kind of played against us at some point. So remember McAllister's chance when he had a chance to shoot a goal. Um, if we step back a little bit, you notice first of all Gakpo has his one-on-one with a defender. It goes past the defender. I think this is like the number 37, who kicks out at him. Now, any smart player at that point would probably have thought of winning a penalty because that kick was very obvious. You could see how he stumbled from it, but he decides to go on. I don't know, some will say kudos to him. I will say from where he was and with all the four defenders in front of him, if he had fallen, he might have gotten that penalty. Um, so he goes past, he trudges on, and then he gets confused and makes the silliest pass. Fortunately, this falls in front of Maka, who shoots blindly. And again, kudos to Nottingham's defense. The four players run and form like this wall beside the keeper, and put themselves on the line, which is what I call commitment, which is something that the Liverpool defense does not quite have. Okay, positioning and marking by the Liverpool defense and by the Liverpool team for me is an absolute joke. When you look at the first goal, the Murillo goal, to me it was a catalogue of incompetence. First of all, look at Soboslai was supposed to be marking a player. Now, if you go back and look at this, he's supposed to be marking a player. He completely loses that player. Now the player is free. And after losing him, he then tries to mark the next player next to him, which is Murillo. Now he's behind Murillo. He's out of position. And Murillo traps the ball on the other side and shoots. Now, of course, Murillo is free because the person that is supposed to be marking Murillo is non-existent, and Sobo is now trying to compensate. Now, the cross is coming in. Virgil van Dijk jumps for the ball. Jesus jumps for the ball. Jesus out jumps Virgil. And the ball goes behind Virgil. And then Murillo traps the ball. Now, when Murillo traps the ball, Konate sees him. The other defenders, seeing how free he is, will throw themselves at the line of the shot. What does Konate do? He simply extends a weak leg, the lazy weak leg extension, as usual. Now, again, where's Graham? Where's Isak? They are both in each post. And what do? When the ball gets to Murillo, they rush out. If Isak had held his position for just one more second, he would have been able to be on the line to stick a leg out and block Murillo's shot. And while that commotion is going on, you look at where Salah is, useless, just standing there in the 18-yard box, marking nobody, doing nothing. Where's Kekes? Also to the right-hand side of the goalkeeper, marking no one, doing nothing, useless. So that makes you ask yourself, what is going on with our defensive coach, our set-piece coach? It was just all over the place. As for the disallowed goal, which I think should have stood, what Konate had in mind that made him do that weird flying tackle, it shall forever be a mystery. First of all, how confused he looked when he stood up from that tackle, looking everywhere but where the ball actually was, shows how blindly he went for the tackle. A very careless situation that could have easily caused a penalty by such a reckless engagement. Now you combine that with the way he was smiling when he was subbed, that leaves fans cooking up all sorts of conspiracy theories there. But for me, that was not even the problem. Now, imagine if Alisson had parried Jesus' shot, which was disallowed. Nottingham Forest attackers were already making forward runs for a counter, while all the Liverpool defenders stood like statues. So if the ball had been saved by Alisson and parried, someone else would have run in to score. And this was manifested in the third goal, when Ali did make a save and Gibbs White had all the freedom to follow up again while our players just watched. Now let's look at our third goal. Catalogue of errors again. Robbo was dribbled easily. He showed the winger, Hutchison, to his favored left foot to shoot instead of leading him to the right. Now Ungumoha comes to double up on the defense, but just basically escorts Hutchison as he slid past Ungumoha and Robbo with no stress, and he shoots the ball. Now Alisson saves the ball, but guess who was running to close down Gibbs White? Gakpo. How? Where was Grav? Well, Grav was in the right back position. Where was Soboslai? He was behind Gakpo. Where was Maka? Well, Maka was originally marking Gibbs White, but instead of him to hold his position, he leaves him to go to block Omari Hutchison's shot from 10 meters wide away from the ball. So of course he fails miserably. He just stretches his leg and he's nowhere near the shot. Now the ball goes in. Well, it doesn't go in. Gibbs White is free to counter. He shoots the ball with Virgil van Dijk directly in front of him. Now what does Virgil van Dijk do? Does he make himself big as big as possible to block the shot? Nope. He does the lazy stick one leg out and hope. Of course the ball goes in and Virgil van Dijk crashes out. If you look at line, just as I'm describing this, go and watch the game and see that catalogue of errors. Meanwhile, while the shot was going in, Soboslai, Gakpo, Chiesa, they're all walking back, while the defensive midfield line of Nottingham are running past them towards our box in case there's a counter. Robbo, meanwhile, who has been beaten with the shot, stands still instead of anticipating a follow-up shot and putting himself between the shooter and the goal. Gomorrah, who has already come to double up at this point, is virtually standing still, watching the game play out like a paid fan. Everyone involved was poor, poor performance all around, leading to the third goal. And as I say again, if you think I'm just making this up, go and watch the game again in slow motion and see how everything pans out. The team structure is all over the place. The system is not working, and maybe it's because the players are just not committing or not working hard enough on the pitch. Something needs to change in training or on the pitch. Maybe expand those half field training games to full field so that players can grasp the end to end dynamics of gameplay. Maybe instruct the players to run and scream on them in game to run instead of just jogging and walking to position. Maybe drill structure or tactics more in the training sessions. Like, I don't know, maybe remind them of the good times to raise their mentality and their mindset. Maybe all of the above. But where we are now, where we're at the point of losing at home to the 19th place team at home with the crowd support. Not 1-0, not a fortunate loss. Not that we outplayed them, losing 3-0, which actually should have been 4-0. Being outplayed, out tacticked, as if that's a word, showing no signs of commitment, no signs from improvement from earlier bad displays, indicates that something is wrong and significant changes need to be made to the team. And as many people have said, we have invested too much not to qualify. I mean, forget about winning the league, that's a pipe dream now. But we've invested too much not to even make the Champions League. And if we don't make the Champions League, that money, the consequences will come back to bite us very, very badly. And that is why decisions need to be made at this point as to whether they will trust that this ship will continue to float by January when it will be too late, or they want to make the changes to make sure that at least the ship is sinking by May, and that we at least get that fourth or fifth position depending on our performance in the Champions League, so that we are able to qualify for Champions League. There's no room for not qualifying for Europe. There's no room. Otherwise, this is going to become a sinking ship. So that's what I have to say. It's critical times, and I know we will come out of it, but it's when. And when we're showing no signs of improvement, that's where there's a problem. So, guys, let's keep watching and seeing how things. I will continue to support the club. I won't say slot in, slot out, whatever, because whatever decisions we make or shout, it's not going to affect the eventual decision of the board and the directors. They will do what they want to do when they think the time is right. So it doesn't matter if I'm shouting stay or go. So I'm not taking sides. I would just say, you know what, we'll keep supporting, and what will happen will happen. But we cannot afford not to make the Champions League this season, especially after all we've invested. So, right, thank you very much. Subscribe if you want to, like if you want to. It's good for the channel, but it's absolutely your choice. I'm grateful if you have watched it to this point. So, all the very best. Catch you again very soon, and take care.